We're going to wait another minute or two to start. Let everybody log in. We'll give it one more minute and then we'll get started. We already have a pretty nice turnout with over 30 people, so that's great. All right, I don't know that we're going to get any more immediately, so we'll get started. Michelle has already started recording this meeting. So welcome everybody. My name is Melissa Bellamy. I'm the chair of the county's Housing Continuum of Care Committee. So this is our monthly meeting. I don't know who other started in together mode, but all right, whatever. Just leave that there. And just say adequate notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act NJSA 10-4-10 has been complied with and shall be entered into the minutes. We'll go ahead and do introductions. I'll run down the list of participants. It's listed alphabetically, but depending upon how you do your name, if you do your first name first or your last name first, I'm going to just run it down. So when I call you, please unmute yourself and you can introduce us and share your name and if you want what organization or group that you're representing. But before we go, I wanted to go first to Eileen for an introduction.
Thanks, Melissa. Good morning, everybody. I'm Eileen O'Donnell, Vice Chair of this illustrious committee and Director of Coming Home. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Then we'll run down the list. First up, Amanda.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Amanda Lyons, and I am the Community Resource Coordinator at Middlesex College.
Thanks, Amanda. Amy.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Amy Flores. I'm with New Brunswick Public Schools.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us today. It was always nice to have the schools represented here.
Thank you.
Hassan.
Hassan wrote in the chat. They're from the VA with the HUD BASH program.
Excellent. Thanks, Hassan, and thanks for joining there. Aziza?
Hi, I'm Aziza Lloyd. I'm with Rutgers University.
Thanks. Glad you can join us today. Brenda?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brenda Timms. I am the medical case manager for Eric Buchanan Health Center.
Thanks, Brenda. Catherine C.
Hi, good morning. Catherine Cintron with Women Aware.
Great. Catherine?
Hi, good morning. Catherine Jackson with Catholic Charities, Diocese of Metuchen.
Great. Great to have you both here today. Chris?
Good morning. Chris Kime with Garden State Home.
Thanks, Chris. Erica?
Good morning, Erica Pulliam, the Center for Great Expectations.
Great. Thank you, Erica. Nicole?
Hi, everyone. Nicole Fernandez from Catholic Charities, Diocese of Metuchen.
Thanks. Henry?
Henry Busby, Middlesex County Veteran Services, VHAP program.
Thanks, Henry. Jennifer.
Good morning, everybody. Jennifer Amaya, Director of Outreach and Prevention with Visions and Pathways.
Great. And John?
Good morning. John Dowd, Middlesex County Office of Health Services.
Thanks, John. Nice to see you. Casey.
Good morning, everyone. Casey Vinkowski, Monarch Housing.
Thanks, Casey. Cassandra.
Good morning, Cassandra Santos from Triple C Housing.
Thanks, Cassandra. Kenya?
Good morning. I'm Kenya from Monarch Housing.
Great. Thanks, Kenya. And Kiana?
Good morning, Kiana Webb from Community Hope.
Wonderful. And Lori?
Good morning, Lori Giancatino for the Special Child Health Services for Middlesex County and the Center for Empowerment.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us. And Madison?
Good morning, Madison Riggs from New Jersey Reentry Corporation.
Wonderful. And we're going to be hearing from Madison in a little more detail in a few minutes. Malika?
Good morning, Malika Brown from Coming Home.
Thanks, Malika. Marco?
Good morning, everybody. Marco Zelaya, New Jersey 211.
Thanks. Marilyn?
Marilyn Crawford from New Brunswick Public Schools.
Excellent. So glad to have the schools represented today. Thank you, guys. Melissa M.
Sorry, I couldn't get my mic off. Good morning, Melissa Mascolo from Mission First Housing.
Sure. Good morning. And Melissa.
Good morning, Melissa Lewis, County Office of Human Services.
Thanks. And Michael? Or actually, Mike.
Good morning, Mike Gildenberg, Central Jersey Legal Services.
Thanks. And Michelle.
Morning, everybody. Michelle Graybell, Homeless Program Supervisor for Middlesex County.
Thank you. Michelle's the one who sends out the meeting invites, the agendas, does the minutes, and keeps us all on track and targeted. So thank you for that. And if you had this meeting invite forwarded to you from somebody else in your organization, you want to get on our list, you can email Michelle or reach out to her to be added to our group. Natalie?
Good morning. I'm Natalie from the Puerto Rican Association for Human Development.
Great. Thanks, Natalie. Ola?
Ola wrote in the chat, they work with the Division of Family Development, the Office of Program Operations. They said they can't turn their mic on.
Okay. Thanks. And good for you to be here. Thanks, Ola. Raina?
Good morning, Raina Garcia, Outreach for Zuffa Health in Plainsboro.
Wonderful. Thanks. Daisha?
Yes, good morning. Stacia Niels, Rutgers UVAC.
Thanks. And Steve?
Morning, everybody. Steve Nagel, Home Sharing.
Good morning. And Talon?
Good morning, everyone. Talin Sai from Coming Home of Middlesex County.
Thanks, Talon. Tanya?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tanya. I'm the outreach for Zufall in the Middlesex area.
Great. Wonderful to have Zufall well represented here today. Barbara?
Good morning, Barbara Washington from the Department of Children and Families, Office of Housing.
Wonderful. Thanks, Barbara. Wendy? Wendy Henderson? Okay. And Zena?
Good morning, Zena Sutton, Edison Housing Authority.
Ah, wonderful. Thanks, Zena. We have really great representation today from a broad group of our community, so greatly appreciate it. Was there anybody I missed? Then I'm gonna get. Oh, go ahead.
Hi, Sylvia Costa from the CTMP.
Hey, wonderful, Sylvia. Good morning.
I do not know how to mute myself, so if somebody can mute me, please. I'm driving, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, I see it now. Looks like Michelle already took care of that. Great. And it looked like if Susan just jumped on, if you want to unmute and introduce yourself.
Good morning, Susan Kramer, Mills Town Clock, CDC. Nice to see everybody. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, just getting rolling. You're perfect. So that's great. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Let me read the mission statement really quickly. The mission of the Middlesex County Housing Continuum of Care Committee is to stimulate community-wide planning and coordination of programs for individuals and families who are homeless and unify and coordinate efforts to end homelessness in Middlesex County, New Jersey, so no one will experience homelessness and no one will be without a safe, stable place to call home. I know, and I just want to check, Casey, I know you had some time constraints and had to leave. Is that still accurate for 10 o'clock?
Yeah, I'll probably be on until about 10:15.
You have to leave at about 10:15 or 10 o'clock?
10:15.
Oh, okay. Trying to decide if we should. Well, let's go through the minutes, the agency spotlight, and then I think we can get through your items before then. Okay, thanks.
Sounds great.
So if I can get a motion to approve the April 4th minutes that Michelle prepared and sent out.
Move to accept.
Thanks, Steve. Is there a second?
This is Jennifer, I second.
Thank you, Jennifer. All in favor, we will assume everyone is in favor, but if you want to unmute and say no or abstain, or you can also note that in the chat, that would be fine. Okay, so minutes are passed. So for our agency spotlight, I'm going to turn it over to Madison Ricks from the New Jersey Reentry Program to tell us a little bit about her work. And yeah, so without further ado, go ahead, Madison. And if you have anything you'd want to show on the screen, I can stop sharing.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a PowerPoint, but I think I can just speak about it. Thanks again for having me on, and good morning, everyone. I just want to give a little bit of background about New Jersey Reentry Corporation. So the mission of New Jersey Reentry is basically to remove barriers to employment, as a lot of times having a background is a barrier to returning to the community, finding stable employment, which we know is a key factor in obtaining and maintaining stable housing. So I'm really happy to be here and be able to, potentially service participants. So our population that we service is anyone that has been court involved in any capacity. So I think as a society, when we think of reentry, like folks that just came home from incarceration, which those folks are definitely included. We have folks that come to the program like a week after they come home, or maybe it's been like 10 years and they're still trying to get back on their feet. They're eligible. We have folks that just have municipal court matters, their license has been suspended, they have traffic tickets, because what we see is a lot of times even those minor tickets or legal involvement can kind of snowball. Your license becomes suspended, then you can't get to work, your job becomes in jeopardy, right? So we have a couple of different areas of services that we try to remove barriers to, again, maintaining employment and just being successful in the community. So the first area of services that we help with is employment and training. So kind of like I mentioned, our employment specialist works with employers within the county. We also service Somerset and Warren County, but for our purposes, we're talking about Middlesex. So we work with employers that are background friendly, or we just, connect with employers to introduce them how we prepare our clients to return back to the workforce, and help them, again, kind of like bridge the gap with finding employment, right? So obviously, to making sure they have an appropriate resume, go over interview skills, how to address, your background or maybe a gap in your employment in the interview process. Those are all really important. Making sure you have a professional email, things of that nature. And we also have a training center in Kearney, New Jersey. So anyone that is a client, they can obtain industry recognized credentials. Just to name a few that we offer would be phlebotomy, peer recovery specialist, OSHA, welding, HVAC, electrical, forklift. So some of these are like 7-day training. Some of them might be like 3 to 6 months, but the only criteria is that they're a client of reentry, and they can utilize those. And we also offer transportation to the site in Kearney for the trainings. So that's good. And then we have an employment specialist at the training center in Kearney that will connect them with employment based on, their credential that they've received from training. So too, a lot of folks are not just trying to find a job, they're also trying to gain, do their GED, which we help with, or also, just again, gain like a credential so they can have a better paying job or things of that nature. So that's kind of the employment and training piece. We have a legal services coordinator. So a big thing that we see is, folks coming home. I think the DOC has done better with having folks get their credentials before they come out, but we help with obtaining state ID or reimbursement if somebody has already gotten it at motor vehicle, obtaining in and out of state birth certificates, as well as like out of country birth certificates, paying license restoration fees once we can help them resolve any outstanding or pending legal matters, and also writing good standing letters to the court if they're, complying with the program, and then also like fines assistance to try and get, fines waived or vacated. Last year, the agency overall within our 9 sites vacated 1.6 million in fines and warrants. So that was really helpful for, folks that was a big barrier. And in terms of warrant, unfortunately, some folks do come in and they don't know that they have an active warrant, so we can contact the court and help them at least get a new court date, let the court know that they're, working on things in a positive way. And then lastly, our licensed social worker does referrals for behavioral health services, MAT, mental health counseling, or medication management for psychiatry, as well as applications for SNAP, Medicaid, or general assistance. And we're also a verified like workforce program for the general assistance. So folks don't have to go to a separate workforce program. If they're connected with reentry, they can do their workforce hours through our program as well. So basically, we implement those 3 elements of services through a 4-day orientation. So clients come for, or anyone that would like to be a client, they come for 4 days, just for 1 week. It's Monday to Thursday from 9 to 2. And during that time, we provide presentations from the staff, as well as outside entities that come in to just provide other information on community services, such as like financial literacy, community food bank, 1-800-GAMBLER, just to try and help be, like a one-stop shop for any of those reentry services. I know a lot of times transportation is a barrier, but we do have a van that can pick up clients throughout the county to get to and from orientation. And we also can provide them bus tickets to get to and from orientation. We also provide lunch. So that's just a basic kind of rundown of the program and the services. So again, I'd just like to reiterate the criteria is anyone that has been court involved at any time, any capacity. There's no like time frame on, when they were involved with the court. And I will leave my email and phone number in the chat as well. I think there's a couple of questions. I'll just answer really quick. Good question. Our old office was in New Brunswick. We are now located in Carteret. So I think the van is helpful in that sense. We do a pickup in New Brunswick at the old site on Livingston Avenue, so we can pick up clients there to come to the office. And Sharon McGreevy is the director of our Veterans Outreach Initiative. So we also help veterans. They do not have to be court involved, just as long as they're a veteran. If they're looking for any type of help with like benefits, housing, Sharon McGreevy is the director of the Veterans Program. And if they're undocumented, we do have an initiative within reentry for help for folks if they're trying to obtain their documentation, if they're undocumented, or they need any particular services in that nature. We also have some pro bono attorneys if they need help with like legal matters for their documentation or things of that matter. We don't have any specific funding for like housing. We do mainly helping them apply on site for emergency assistance through the Board of Social Services. And we have a contact through there. A lot of folks come in and they have like already applied for EA or things of that nature, and they just like haven't heard back or they're unsure. So we can help them, navigate that. And I'll leave the general website as well in the chat if you would like to just browse the services.
That would be great. And if you can share the PowerPoint that you have, you can forward it to Michelle. We'll send it out after the post meeting so people can have it as a reference. But I think that's wonderful because I think I was under kind of the impression reentry usually meant that you spent more time in prison and not necessarily people who have municipal issues from that. And just a quick clarification on the undocumented. Can they still, I know you mentioned the other services that would be particularly needed for them, but can they still take part in like the welding programs, the other type of programs and assistance that you offer?
Yes, they do. There's some criteria. So we have a couple of trainings that are funded by NJRC. So those are very, very like low barrier. They usually don't have to have like an ID or their GED or high school diploma. But for some of the longer courses like welding, electrical, they're funded maybe through like Hudson County College. So they have certain requirements that we have to help the clients get. So if they might not necessarily have access to like their ID or certain things, they might not be able to get into that at the moment. But we'll help them navigate. And then the courses right now are only offered in English as far as the trainings. I like to be transparent about that. So we have some folks that are predominantly like Spanish speaking. So I usually help them first maybe with their English if they want to get to like ESL or kind of like, build up into going into a training course, if that answers your question.
No, that's excellent. I think, thank you so much. I think you gave a lot of people a wealth of information and the broad scope that's available to people, who may just have had something in the past that's holding them back. And, you kind of don't think about it if it's been a long time ago and they've always been dealing with it. And I think especially the work on getting the fines and things like that, that's just so, so important, removing all those barriers. So that's great. Any other questions from the group? That's wonderful. Well, I appreciate. Oh, go ahead.
I have a question. I was gonna say, what's the referral process? Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Sorry, there was a lot of us talking at once. Brenda just wants to know what the referral process is, Madison.
Oh, okay. So I have a form. So if anyone is interested, well, I can send you the form, and then I'm also going to put my email in the chat. So if you'd like to send me an email, I'll be glad to send you the form and our flyer electronically as well. We're also having a job fair on May 17th. So if you have some folks, they don't have to be enrolled in the program. They can just, come to our office, come to the job fair. So I'll send that flyer out too.
And people can self-refer. They can just kind of reach out and show up for the program. Absolutely. There's not a formal. Okay. That's great.
So for the 4-day orientation, we do have like a referral process. So I'll send Melissa that referral form, and I'll also put in my email. So if you'd like me to directly, send anyone the referral form, I can do that too.
Okay, great. I think, yeah, if you just get it to Michelle, we can get it out to get it out to the group. That's perfect. Any other questions? All right, that sounds great. Thank you so much. It was wonderful information and a great resource to have in our county and to know about, and especially the transportation up to Kearney. That makes so much of a difference. So wonderful.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, our next big item on the agenda is that the HUD, our program competition, our local competition for the 2024 HUD funding that we anticipate will be coming out soon. So we started the process. It seems like we just finished 2023, but here we go again. The local tools have been reviewed by the executive committee, and Michelle sent them out as part of the attachments. So the notice of intent letter, which just is a welcoming letter and an invite to community members and organizations to apply for funding, and also for all the agencies who are renewals to apply to renew their funding if they'd like to continue their program. As it was last year, everything's going to be completed with a SurveyMonkey application. So even though you got a paper application, that was just to kind of give you a little heads up of what it will be. You're expected to do the application through SurveyMonkey. The scoring tool, performance standards, and funding priorities were all attached. I'm gonna put it to Casey, just if she wants anything to highlight anything in particular or to just talk about any of the tools or questions. So I'll kick it to Casey then, and then we'll come back to talking about the timeline.
Thanks, Melissa. So I will say that all those materials went out. Thank you, Michelle, for sending them. Keep in mind that the portal will not open until Tuesday morning when the NOI process officially opens. So if you go to that SurveyMonkey link, it's going to be the SurveyMonkey apply page. It's going to show no active applications because we aren't actively going to open that up until Tuesday morning. So just keep that in mind. The other piece that I'd like you to keep in mind is that if you're thinking, oh, maybe I'll put a project in next year, this process has actually moved to a biannual process. So Congress passed the budget to move the NOFO process to be biannual, which means that we will only be accepting new project applications every other year. So this is your opportunity to get funded for the next 2 years, and then we will have an open competitive process again in fiscal year 26. And then we're going to have a technical assistance session on May 15th. And so I'll go over like all the HUD regs, like what's allowable budget wise, what project types are allowable, all of those pieces, and there'll be plenty of time for Q&A. So if you're thinking about applying, I really encourage you to come to that technical assistance session.
And I want to highlight, not that one. Okay, so here just is the funding priorities. And this is based on what HUD has put in the past couple of cycles. Projects that have coordination with healthcare resources, because that has been a priority not only of our COC, excuse me, but also with HUD and giving points or looking for projects that have that. And then again, expecting a domestic violence bonus project, funding. So rapid rehousing programs are support services, coordinated entry programs dedicating to those serving those fleeing domestic violence. So programs that. For the domestic violence bonus, you don't necessarily have to be a domestic violence provider to be doing, to apply for that and connect with that services. Correct, Casey?
Yes, actually, we received the DV bonus 2 years ago, and that was a project that was a partnership between Catholic Charities, who administers the rental assistance, and then Women's Space, who actually does the supports, providing the support and treatment. So there's definitely flexibility there as far as like your organization and what it's more so about making sure that you meet the needs of that population. So whether that's through MOUs with other organizations or in-house supports that you can provide.
And that was Women Aware, you meant Catholic Charities and Women Aware?
I'm
okay,
sorry,
yeah.
yes.
That's okay.
And
Women's Space is down in Mercer County. So
yep, and I guarantee to you, I'll say that Women Aware at the Mercer meeting. So it's almost guaranteed. And then one of the other things, just to highlight the healthcare resources, there is a documentation requirement from HUD for that connection. We do have to provide documentation of that healthcare connection. And so I'll go over what that documentation looks like. It's typically just like an MOU or a commitment letter from a healthcare resource. And then it has to detail some budgetary things. So we'll go over that at the technical assistance session as well.
That's great. And for any of the projects, I love our community because we work so closely together, and we have a lot of collaborations where, you might be like, your program now is like, hey, wait, this is great. We've heard all this great info from Madison. Okay, I'm going to start, making sure I connect people, with Madison, and we're going to do that. And you refer clients, and things go really, really well. And that's great. And a lot of you have those type of relationships. You just automatically know what agency the contact, the person there, and it becomes seamless. And that's wonderful. But sometimes for showing HUD and telling the story, they want to see a formalized MOU on a lot of these relationships that may have been, in place for a dozen years and just kind of business as usual. So sometimes if you get a request from an agency that's looking to get an MOU from your organization, please do what you can to get that in place and make that, and know that they're doing that to help strengthen their application, or for us as a system to help strengthen our system-wide application. For people less familiar with the continuum of care process, when we could apply for this funding, and we receive, I think now we're up to 3.8 million that we get in on an annual basis that comes in the community to address homelessness among about a dozen or so projects. We have to put in individual applications for all the projects being recommended, whether they're new projects or renewal projects. And we also have to complete an application as the COC and tell them what we've been doing, how we've been doing system-wide. The biggest part of it too is our different performance measures and how well we perform as a system. So right now we're, kind of locked into what our past performance was, because the things that they're going to measure are things now that have already happened in the past. So that is what it is. But on a part, we want to be in a position to kind of constantly be approving. We're not going to do this process again where they're going to look at performance measures to decide how much funding or what kind of bonus projects are going to come in for another 2 years. So I'll kind of put that to the side for a second. But just know that if somebody's asking you for something, whether it's coming from somebody, maybe from Coming Home, looking on a system-wide thing from our office, or from an agency, we're looking to strengthen bringing funds in the community that's going to help your clients, our mutual clients. The other part, I will ask all the agencies that have renewals to please take a look at your budget and see if there's any funding that you might not need to be able to operate your program. If there's funding that's not there, that you could come in maybe for less than what you're able to. Let's say you're supposed to serve 10 people, you get funding to serve 10 people. They fund you at the point expecting your clients not to really have any contribution towards their housing, because they might expect if you're serving a client with zero income, but you have each year and money's being returned back to HUD. Well, you might be able to come in for a little less. And if you want to self-identify that, that would be fabulous. Because I don't know, the past few years, we had some projects that were willingly, the county put some projects that they had willingly decided not to reapply for, to free up some new money to go into some new projects. We don't really have that coming in now. I also know, I haven't looked at all the system performances, that our performances are, they're okay, but they're not fabulous with all the metrics. So to help us generate funds for new programs, it's probably going to be most likely through reallocation of maybe some existing funds. So if you can help identify and see that, if there are projects that relate to rentals, you're going to still get those increases for the rents and the parts, but just if you're underutilizing your grant because of the client mix that you have in there, you can take a look at that. Or if you have a program that you just think it's not really running the way it should, and you're maybe thinking about not continuing it, that's also there too. So I'll put that out there to look at that judiciously when you're putting in your application. And I know it's kind of counterintuitive of like, why should I ask for less money than I could possibly get? But if you can look back honestly and say you haven't been using it for the past couple of years, then, think about that. And then you can still really help the community. Go ahead, Casey.
I was going to say, for any renewal projects that this sounds like something maybe they could potentially do or something they would be potentially interested in, reach out to me. You all have my email addresses from many contacts over the monitoring process and all of that. So just reach out to me. I'm happy to sit down with you and talk through what your potential options could be and look at your budget and look at your spending over the last couple of years. I'm happy to set aside that time.
Thanks, Casey. So I'll review the timeline really quick. Our dates, as Casey said, this May 7th, the application will be live. Then on the 15th, there is a local technical assistance workshop. It'll be through Teams at 1 p.m. If you are a new applicant, it is mandatory that you have somebody attend that. You're not going to do a good job on the application unless you really attend that and get kind of the scope of what it is and be able to ask your questions. So that's at the best session that we can possibly provide you with technical assistance. You'll also, during the process, you can ask questions of Casey, but the TA session will really kind of make it all come together. So we would encourage you, especially if you're a new applicant and you're not familiar with this process as much, definitely have at least one, but maybe more than one person from your organization to really grab that and understand that. Applications are due back Friday, June 14th. And that's both for new and existing new and renewal projects. So 4 p.m. It's pretty easy with the deadline. It's all done through SurveyMonkey, so you don't have to run to the county and get something dropped off. You'll also find the links for everything at the county website. They're actually up now. So you'd be able to use the website, the link on here. Once on the 7th, Michelle will also send out another email notifying everyone that the applications are live again, and they'll have all the links in it. Any questions on the local process? Or actually, before I do that, and then what happens when the applications come in on the 14th, they'll be reviewed by our technical review committee. And that committee consists of individuals who are not connected to any of the projects. So they're not an applicant, or they're also not a sponsor. So they have no stake in an agency getting funding. They're not connected in any way. They're impartial people. If anybody is interested in serving on that technical review committee, we're always willing and looking for additional bodies, additional people who can review it. You don't have to have a great deep knowledge of the continuum of care process. As you can see, if you look at the scoring tool, a lot of things are pretty objective. So it's really kind of just weighing out and then knowing then once we know what the budget is that we're looking at and the dollars that we could potentially apply for, it's kind of ranking applications, creating that ranking list and then looking at what you can do funding wise. And you are guided very ably by Casey and Monarch staff on that with assistance from Michelle. So you can come in not knowing a great deal about it, but really gives you a nice deeper knowledge and appreciation of it. So I'll make a pitch if anybody's interested in the technical review committee. You can reach out to myself or Michelle, and we could still, if you're interested, you can think about it. We can appoint you at the next meeting on our June 6th meeting. And then you can jump right in. So if anyone's interested in technical review committee or wants more information, definitely reach out and consider it. It's not too terribly too time consuming. There'll be a couple meetings for a few hours during the time period in June and July when after the applications are submitted. And we're also a little bit at the mercy of HUD's schedule of when they might release the NOFO. If there comes something that they put in something, an application opportunity beyond like the domestic violence one and the healthcare one that they've done in the previous years, and we didn't have we hadn't made that, it wasn't known, so people didn't think to apply for it as a priority. There is the chance that we could reopen for new applications if HUD does put out something kind of completely different and unexpected. Let's say they decided to target something specifically for people who had, reentry or criminal justice matters, or if there's a specific one targeting youth homelessness. And we didn't, have that. So we might open up an application process just for that specific program or target audience that we didn't really publicize before. We're not anticipating doing that, but that is a possibility. It would only be for new applicants, and we would put that out if HUD comes out and throws a curveball and has something brand new that wasn't on the past NOFO application. Michelle, Casey, anything I'm missing or forgot to add?
Just to add for TRC, so we did it last year. We could do it again this year. Before we start reviewing the applications, we have a meeting so that Casey can go over the application, go over the scoring tool so everybody can completely understand it. So we do make it, very easy for you. So if you are interested, please just let me know. And like Melissa said, we'll have that meeting. There'll be another one after everybody reviews the applications, because you could do that on your own time. We don't sit together to do that anymore. After you review that, we go over the scores together, and it's really 2, maybe 3 meetings if, like Melissa said, we have to resend out the applications for any reason, if there's additional funding available. So if you are in, I don't want to harass people, so please, 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 please reach out to me, and I will be reaching out to everybody that did participate last year, hoping that they would like to participate again this year. But always good to have a wide net of people to review the applications.
Right. Any other questions? All right, that's great. We got you out in time, Casey. Thanks. Move on to our take care. Moving on to our committee reports, the executive committee, we will be meeting next week on the 16th. At our last meeting, we had looked at the pretty much all the application documentation. And got that started with the process. And we've also kind of talk a little bit about it when we get down in our further in when we talk about our Built for Zero work in the DCA 3DM grant. And what's the next steps in that. But the executive committee will meet next week, so you'll hear more about that at our June meeting. Permanent supportive housing, Melissa?
Okay, we did not meet for April, so there's not really much to report on. The next meeting is going to occur on May 23rd at 10 a.m. on Teams, sent the invite out. If you did not receive it and you're in the group, please reach out to me. And I'll throw in here, because we did talk about this on the last PSH committee meeting, and a few of the agencies involved attended a meeting with the Blaustein School for the needs assessment project that we were looking into with Dr. Andrea Hetling. And so it was not Erin from VOA, Lisa from Coordinated Family Care, Catherine Jackson, and myself. And Steph Evans is also not on PSH, but is part of this with us. So we're excited to work with the school for the needs assessment project for Middlesex County. Some of the things they're going to be looking at for us are the network of homeless providers in Middlesex County, how the case management services are arranged, what are the barriers that exist in accessing the services. And it'll go on. We still need to get approval. Well, Rutgers still needs to get approval for this, but they're very interested in working with us. So we were hoping to start sometime in May. It might go a little beyond that, and we want it to be done by the end of August. Some of the data collection activities that Rutgers is looking at is just scanning the existing providers and making sure all the resource databases are up to date. Doing some focus groups with the CPC committee and some focus groups with agencies within our COC who are interested in this. And this is also connected to Built for Zero. I'm not sure if it's on the agenda today, so I kind of reported out on that a little early. But that's it. If you're not on the PSH committee and you're interested in joining, I'll put my information in the chat. And if Nicole and Catherine here, if they could do the same, we'd love to have you. I think that's it.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
Yeah, any permanent housing provider should consider joining up with the permanent supportive housing group and work on that. Consumer participation, Eileen.
Yes, if you didn't know what CPC meant when Melissa was just speaking, it's the Consumer Participation Committee. And I just want to, we do continue to meet, every month. And I want to tell you that this is your committee. This is your Consumer Participation Committee. So like what we're doing now and what like Melissa suggested she will do in the future, the group is great for reviewing policies, write-ups, anything that you have that you want to issue out, and you say, oh, not only do you get points for involving consumers in your work on your NOFO application, but it's also what we're all striving to do, to engage people with lived experience to improve our services, right? So I know Coming Home specifically has used them. We are using them right now. Lane came and talked to us at our last in-person COC meeting, and he's working on a graphic resource guide. And the committee has been stupendous in reviewing, word for word, the dialogue, the written prose that goes along with his graphics, and makes wonderful suggestions. So they're really engaged, they're really smart, they're really helpful. So we would love to have you join the committee and be a regular attendee, but you can also say, hey, you know what, I would like to have the committee's input and review of X, Y, and Z that we're doing. You can also come for a meeting just like that. So I'll put my information in the chat if you want to come and join us. We'd love to have you. Thank you.
Thanks, Eileen. And definitely the importance of persons with lived experience participating meaningfully in our COC, not just through consumer participation, but through other groups, including our TRC and our executive committee. So we're looking to keep strengthening that and making sure the voices are heard, because they're the ones who really have the best insight in how well we're doing. So we'd be fools not to listen to them on how we can improve. Homeless Youth Task Force. I don't know if Michael joined, if not Chris. Or...
I am here.
Oh, go ahead.
I made it from my other meeting. Good morning, everybody. Just a few things. One, we did have our Homeless Youth Task Force meeting yesterday. It was a shorter meeting. I was unable to secure the presentation that I was hoping to get for that meeting, but it looks like we will be having that at the following meeting in July. That is going to be from Luther at DCF regarding their First Place for Youth program. which is a program that helps youth 18 to 24 get into an apartment. It's being run through Catholic Charities, Diocese of Metuchen, and it's in both Somerset and Middlesex counties. It's sort of, I guess, a easy program to understand. CCDOM is the master lease. They sublease to the youth. They then work with the youth to set up goals. They have them engage in program services, and they start to set up a rental savings account, which youth can contribute to monthly. So we're looking forward to having more information on that at our next meeting. Additionally, one thing that we kind of looked at a little bit was this new Supreme Court case that may have some implications on youth homelessness and homelessness in general. That was Johnson versus the city of Grants Pass, Oregon. I encourage others to take a look at that. It could be a significant shift in certain areas on homeless encampments and the like. I can send a link to the blog that argument was heard towards the end of April, so I think we can probably expect a ruling over the next couple of months. Other than that, we did also speak about the Youth Action Board. Our next meeting is going to be this month on the 21st. That's going to be held in person at Middlesex College. We encourage any youth who are either interested in learning more about youth homelessness in the county or youth who are currently or formerly homeless to attend. I do have the registration link here. I'm going to share it on the chat. We do request that they fill out the registration link simply because we are trying to get a head count. We provide food and drink courtesy of the COC. If youth are in need of transportation as well, we can provide that to and from the college. But we are looking forward to having a presentation there. Pardon me. Presentation there from the college regarding the educational opportunities for the youth for degree as well as certification and the like. So if there are any questions on that, I am happy to take them.
Thanks, Michael.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks, and thanks for the good work and the dedication there. Eileen, anything coordinated assessment leadership team?
I had to unmute. Well, we met in March, right? And we have examined the work that we have done thus far, and we reported out on the statistics of the people that have been served at the different sites. And we agreed that Perth Amboy and New Brunswick are operating well. And of the 3 outpost sites that we had, the Church of Metuchen is still worth going to. Because I'm not being judgmental as to people's value. I'm talking about how many people attend, that we can help. And the county college is actually also worth. We decided that Aldersgate isn't working, and we're still looking for new alternate locations. We've been sort of super busy with the 3DM project, even since our meeting in March. And so we can get back to this now.
Sounds great. Any questions? Okay, now, go ahead, Amanda.
I have an idea for another intake place. I don't know if this has been floated yet, but the Reformed Church of Highland Park has a ton of social, services.
Actually, Malika actually went out there. I don't know if she wants to speak about it, but yes, okay. Exactly. And it's specifically on Tuesdays for some reason. So we have been going there.
They have a lot of different programs going on. So it might be a place that would bring in a lot of people, and it's on the public transportation route, and
Right. I mean, it's awfully close to New Brunswick, but yes, we have been going out there too. Thank you.
Amanda, I am actually, yes, I'm working with Lori to
Yeah.
work out the best day that we
Great.
can attend.
Yes, well, we love having this available here. You know, we have so many students who are asking, so I'm so happy that you guys are doing this and getting people out in person. I think it's really helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. And if anybody knows maybe of another location in a different part of the county that's not being served, that has some level of a massive people who might benefit from being screened for homeless services, or imminent risk of homelessness, or people who could need to know about maybe some other available resources so they don't get so desperate, some prevention resources. So if you have any thoughts on areas or of that, please let us know, and we can look at that, because we have the 2 permanent sites in New Brunswick and Perth Amboy, and then have a floating one to go around to the the county at different locations. So. All right, great. Now to the really exciting things. So most of you have been knowing, and some of you have at least knowledge of kind of 2 things that we've been reporting somewhat separately, but really directly connect and interlock together. And that's our Built for Zero initiative. We've been a Built for Zero community for several years now. Built for Zero is an initiative through Community Solutions, who's a nonprofit dedicated towards ending homelessness. And the idea of building for zero is that you have to do things as a system to really consciously work towards reducing your homelessness number and getting it down to the point of zero. Not that you'll never have a homeless person, but that you have enough resources that when somebody becomes homeless, they can quickly exit homelessness. And the idea is to start really working with different populations, like your chronic homeless population. So you work to get that to zero, or a veterans homeless population, and you work that down to zero, where you're bringing enough resources in that when the person is identified in those categories, they can have their homelessness more quickly addressed, and you do really have those resources in your community. And once you kind of do those special populations, then you work on it for everybody. But the idea is that homelessness isn't just something that's always going to be here in high numbers, but something, and that is just something that we manage, but that we're actually working on significantly reducing homelessness. So that's Built for Zero, and we've been a part of that. And their idea is you don't have to build this whole big, huge different thing, but there's a lot of different ways that maybe each of us individually can approach how we do work, see if that works or not. So you don't do this 2-year study on what we should do to reduce homelessness and end homelessness and say, oh, that sounds good. Well, let's develop some way to implement that. And you're taking years instead of just jumping in and doing something. And it's the idea of do something, see if it works. If it works, continue doing it. If it doesn't work, go back to the drawing board and try something else. Is the idea kind of behind Built for Zero. And there was always metrics to see how well you were doing. And if you were doing well and you were reducing whatever your goal was, if it was chronic homelessness, and we had that, we hit that hard in 2019. We had an initiative around that, and we wanted to drive that number down. The number of chronically homeless people in our community. And if each month you're driving that down and you had that for a period of 6 months, well, then Built for Zero would say, well, you had a shift. You had a shift in your homelessness. You drove it down over that 6-month period. Okay, that's great. And now we'll kind of reset that. And they, would kind of reward you with like, hey, thanks, you hit it, and recognize you as a community that made a significant shift in your homeless data. And they would look at it, completely just on a chart. and would show like the numbers, whether it's a bar chart, and they would map it out with a little line that's going, a slash line that's going, vertically down, and recognize your shift. So that was what Built for Zero is and kind of continues to do. We also had this wonderful alphabet soup of New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, DCA, 3DMOCP, which is decision making. Okay, I have it down here. Data driven decision making organizational change program, which is a fancy way for saying, take all that data that you have in your HIMIS system, your homeless management information system, that many of us have to enter data in all of our clients on, and look at that. And it this grant allowed us to hire somebody in our community. So through Coming Home, that we've been able to hire Talon, who's our data expert or data analyst, and he can pull data from that big box that is HIMIS of all this data on all the different people that we collect, and organize it in ways and look at it in different ways and look at different factors and figure out, well, what's some of the factors that might have contributed to someone's homelessness? Where are we seeing rises in homelessness? Is it in certain ages? Is it by certain races? Is it by disabilities? What's the different ways we're looking at it? So looking at the HIMIS data and be able to pull data from other sources and to manipulate that data using other tools beyond what's just in HIMIS. So Talon can tell you the different programs. Some of you attended previously like a Tableau training, and Tableau is like a website that can take and manipulate data and make it look pretty and make it look presentable. And this is helpful for us as a system. It's helpful for agencies to be able to tell your data story and to show it in different ways, whether it's for your annual reports or for your applications, to be able to say, hey, this is what we did. Here's what made it effective. So we're really lucky and fortunate that we, as a COC, received this grant. And kind of we spent the past 12 weeks at the beginning of this year through the middle of April working on developing the data analysts. There were 8 COCs that received the funding, and to work on as a COCs, because it's not enough to just have Talon and say, go ahead, Talon, make magic, take the data and make it make sense. You kind of need the people, the leaders in the COC, to be able to know what data to look at and to be able to kind of figure out, what do we do once we see something, once the data tells us a story, and what do we think that tells us? And okay, what are we going to do about that? And at next month's meeting, we're going to go into more detail because we're in person. We'll show you what we presented when we went to Cambridge. This training that they had to help us think about how we look at data and think about what it means, and not to just think of two things that maybe look like they're related, but maybe they're not. Maybe they just happen to be two things that occurred at the same time. And so it had us think about how we look at data, and not to jump to conclusions with it, but to be able to really think about it and make it make sense. So there was a group of 7 of us who were able to participate in this over the past several weeks, which ended with a fabulous training, a 2-day training in Cambridge, up at the Harvard Kennedy School of Kennedy School of Government, which you were the facilitators for this training through something called the Government Performance Lab. So it was really, really cool to be able to have Harvard professors teach us and conduct sessions at the 2-day training, and then to have just a really bright cohort of our peers across the state, across the 8 communities, with these really smart facilitators. And just, it's such a wonderful thing, and we can't wait to share it in more detail. We wanted to keep it for the in-person meeting to get a little more into it. But as we were there doing the training, we kind of realized what we're doing in this data analyst is really kind of directly related to Built for Zero and the goals that we previously established. So maybe we just need to kind of put this together and kind of talk about our constant goal of what are we about as a COC? Why do we come together once a month? Why do we work? And we're always talking about collaboration and coordination and, what am I doing for this? Why am I here on this meeting? And it's that we're all really working to reduce homelessness. So we're kind of branding at this point all this work that we're doing collectively and working to drive these numbers with a set aim is we're kind of calling it making shifts happen. And we've completely stole that from Built for Zero. And doing that, it's a little bit of tongue in cheek. But it's recognizing the work that everybody does, and that everybody, especially the frontline workers who are doing the direct client services, that what they do really matters and how they approach their job really matters. They probably have the best ideas for what can be improved. We all have those jobs that are like, don't you just wish the bosses above would do X, Y, and Z and it would make our life easier? Or how out of touch they are with what the reality is. Well, we don't want that to be the case. We want people to feel empowered to share what could be done better. So we're looking for input from the frontline staff. What is needed? Is it a resource? Is it a redesign of a system of, gee, if I didn't have to jump through this hoop in order to do this, I can better serve my client. What's the gaps in our system? So that's all that we need, that feedback from the people most connected to the work. And it's also, we need that feedback from the clients, and that's where consumer participation and having people with lived experience, it's asking people, what could we do better? So all of that is really part of our making shifts. So in order to make the shift happen, to see our numbers go down, we all have to make a shift in our work and what we do and maybe how we approach it. It might just be a little shift. It might just be a change of thought. It might be whatever, a way for your staff to give you some more feedback, a way to survey your clients to hear about it, different opportunities. So all these different things, new connections. What we're talking about doing is a whole bunch of different little shifts and approach. So we're kind of making everything under this making shifts happen. So what we want to see is we want to see our reduction in homelessness. We had already had that really as an aim, and we had it, it's kind of say, yeah, we're all about reducing homelessness, but we set a pretty broad goal last year where we wanted to reduce our homelessness by 25% from January 2020. 660 in our point in time count to under 500 people by the end of December. So in about 7 months, 8 months to be able to, reach that. I don't know if we'll hit that or not, but that's not a reason to not try and not to keep driving that down. So, and to hit this aim, we set up 3 goals. And one of it was increasing housing placements. So that's a shift upward. If we have so many housing placements each month, if we're only at 8, we want to be at 10. So we want to keep increasing that shift of placements upwards. So housing placements are people who exit our homeless system to positive outcomes. They're leaving homelessness to go into permanent housing, either on their own, permanent housing with friends and family. Whatever that good opportunity is, we want to see more of that happen in each month. So more success in that. And to do that, we recognize we broke it down in kind of three different areas. So one way to help increase people to have more positive housing placements is to expand housing opportunities. So that's both the amount of vouchers that may become in our community and the amount of permanent housing that's dedicated to homeless individuals. So increasing that by, it could be new construction, it could be by rehab and acquisition, all those different projects that we're still kind of pursuing, that the more affordable housing that's dedicated to people who are homeless, and they're able to afford the rents in that, either because there's a voucher subsidy tied with it, or the rents can be set low enough that our homeless population can take advantage of those opportunities. So that's expanding housing opportunities. Enhanced support to stakeholders regarding our mission. Let them know about our programs, letting them know what's available, educating them so accepting a voucher doesn't seem scary to them, or if they've had a bad experience before, to tell them why it's not going to be a bad experience anymore. Maybe that was one particular voucher program and not the one that this is tied with. We're doing that by the county has out now through its the County of Middlesex procurement website a competitive contract for something called a housing support team. So we are hiring we'll contract with an agency that will hire a what's called a property engager, who's going to go out, whose job is completely just to go out and find landlords, property management companies, anybody with vacant apartments that are willing to rent to homeless people. And we understand people shouldn't discriminate on the basis of someone having a voucher, but the reality is we know that sometimes landlords, especially in tight rental markets, which we have, for especially affordable units, they can say, oh, well, it's not that I'm not going to take Section 8, but you need to have a 750, credit score to take this apartment. Or, you need to have a job that shows you make 4 times the monthly rent and income. So there's different things that they can do to screen out our clients. So this property engager is full job is really going to be doing that, is just finding landlords. And we know that previously we asked case managers to maybe do this work. Hey, go find landlords who will rent to your clients. So this will free up case managers to focus more on all the other aspects that they need to do for their clients to get them successfully housed and to work with them. So someone there just kind of telling our story and reaching out to those stakeholders to get more people in units. Because the worst thing is somebody to have a voucher in hand and not be able to find anything and use it. The second part of that housing support team grant with the property engager is to hire someone called the housing placement liaison. So what this will be is if we have somebody who is having a voucher or is referred for rapid rehousing, they can be referred to the housing placement liaison, who will help facilitate them using their voucher by using the properties identified by the property engager and helping make some matches. If we find someone, you match someone with a unit that's available with where they want to be, then that housing placement liaison will just kind of help make sure that all that process that needs to be done, if you're working with a housing authority who issued that voucher, that they have the paperwork they need that's signed, that the tenant, potential tenant does everything they're supposed to do, connecting them if we need security deposits. So they kind of become the person who's helping manage that paperwork flow that has to get between all those parties. Again, this is helping to alleviate some of the work from that the case managers used to have to do in addition to, maybe the counseling, especially if they're like mental health caseworkers, PATH program, people with that we can kind of take some of that responsibility relating to getting somebody into housing and finding housing as a community resource. So that contract is out there. It's due back, I want to say, I think the 14th. It's due back in about another 2 weeks. We did have a technical assistance workshop. We had about 3 or 4 agencies on there who were interested. So we're looking forward to getting multiple responses to that proposal and being able to award those funds shortly. The last group that was working under this goal was looking to optimize case management services. What can we do with case management to kind of improve that? What can we do? What services do we need to bring in that we can offer? We talked about potential to have, develop a program to teach people who maybe, especially if they're coming from chronic homelessness and an unsheltered situation for a long time and they haven't had their own apartment, how to be a good tenant. What are these things you have to think of and learn how to do, how to, clean your bathroom and stay up on this. And so helping get the case management services to people that they need. So this work has already started with these groups for this first goal, and now we need to do this for the second and third goal. I know we've been talking about it for the past couple of meetings, but we're going to look to get these groups meeting in May. With the 3DM training, we just didn't have the capacity for our leadership to kind of coordinate that, but we're going to look to get these engaged this month. We're looking for people to do this same thing for these groups. So reducing chronic homelessness, we want to see a shift downward. So the outreach teams who work with chronic homeless population, our PATH programs, what could be done better? We've kind of done this before, so I'm going to kind of call back those same groups and people who worked on this in 2019. What did we have to do and what changes did we make? In doing this, you'll now have the support of this housing support team. That's going to be operational in a couple months. So that might make the difference of making some things a little easier to help reduce our chronic homelessness. We also want to look at what can we do to prevent people from becoming chronic homeless because they've been homeless for too long. So that might be working with our shelter providers and working with that. So we're going to put out, and we know we've asked you to start thinking about that. Think about it again. We'll get some invites out for some potential meeting dates to start this. And the best way you have to do it, and really the only way, is you need to get a group of people sitting in a room together and broken down. So we're going to look to schedule those for the chronic homeless group. And then this last group, decreasing system inflow. This is preventing people from becoming homeless. So we want to see that number shift downwards, the number of people who weren't homeless before, but are becoming first-time homeless, and then people who are returning to homelessness. We do pretty good with this second one, but there's always room for improvement and what we can do better. So we're looking for prevention groups, people who are working maybe with populations that aren't always homeless, but your whole group isn't homeless, but you might encounter some homeless people. These are maybe groups with our school homeless liaisons, youth homelessness. What are the kind of things that we need to know about people who are becoming homeless? What are their characteristics, and using that to maybe help identify people who would potentially become homeless from entering the system. We know that most people They don't become evicted and become homeless and show up at the shelter door. Usually if someone loses their housing, they then go temporarily with friends and family. And then when that becomes non-sustainable, that's when they end up homeless. So this might be strengthening diversion programs, finding different things. What are the supports we need to maybe keep people still staying temporarily with families, or maybe what resources that they don't have to stay that long with them because they can kind of quickly re-engage and go out, and if they can obtain and afford housing on their own. So that's what that group would be working on. So think about if that's something that you could think ties in, how we can better target our prevention resources to figuring out who would end up homeless. And making sure they have a way to do that, making sure people aren't waiting till the 9th and hour to kind of come to us, that they're calling us a day before they have their court date and they have no funds saved up, or they're calling us when they have the warrant of removal in hand. Maybe it might be figuring out a way to fast track something to help those people, especially if they've had a past history of homelessness. So maybe it's finding some kind of streamlined, quick system. We've done this before, sometimes for people when we hear about it and know about it. But again, that kind of then becomes somebody's getting a good resource because they knew the right people to connect, and we made magic happen for that person. But I worry about the same person in a similar thing who might not have known to reach out to that person, reach out to somebody to make that magic happen. So maybe we need a better system that nobody falls through those cracks. So those are kind of the things it's taking about saying we want to reduce homelessness. Well, how do we do that? Well, we make more people exit homelessness into better outcomes. We make sure our hardest to serve homeless population, that we're addressing their needs. They always should be a top priority because they're the ones who use a lot of system dollars. And compassionately, it's the right thing to do. Chronic homelessness, people who've been long-term homeless and they have disabilities, they already have a lot of barriers in place. So we want to make sure we're still addressing them because it's the right thing and the compassionate thing to do. And even if they're difficult sometimes, this is who we need to serve because this is what it's about. And we can't just pick the easiest people to serve. And then decreasing our system inflow, not having people become homeless. That's just making our job harder. It's harder to house somebody once they're homeless and get them rehoused than it is to keep them housed. So we break those down into all these different components of all these different little things we can do to these 3 big goals. And that's how we reduce this number. If we don't hit this, I'm not too worried. What I'm looking at is kind of even expanding that, what Casey has mentioned, in as opposed to every year having to gear up for, oh no, it's NOFO season again, and let's gear up and put a bunch of resources into doing and reevaluating our application process and doing this. We now know we have a 2-year period to improve in calendar year 24 and 25 to really make our homeless performance measures stellar. And what that does is 2 years from now, and it sounds like a long time away, but it's really not. In 2026, want to be able to tell you when we have our May 2026 meeting that, oh my gosh, we are so well positioned to take advantage of this NOFO because our performance measures, our chronic homeless number down, our unsheltered homeless number is down. We have low recidivism. Our homeless numbers have gone down so far that all those performance metrics have moved in the right direction. All the shifts have happened the way they would. And this community is poised to receive buku bonus dollars through the HUD Continuum of Care process. And instead of bringing in, 3.8, and maybe by that time it's 3.9 or $4 million, we're bringing in 4.5 million. And once that becomes your new baseline, everything grows exponentially from there. So yes, we're still working on it for this year, but I've kind of almost knowing that we're now going to a 2-year NOFO process. This is just kind of a longer time frame to really make improvement, and that we really have the time to analyze and look at this. And when you see next month's presentation and you see what we can do with data and what we did as our project, I don't even want to it's so cool. I don't want to ruin the presentation for next month, so I'm not even gonna tip it off. But it was Talon taking some data that's in HIMSS and that was always kind of available to us, and manipulating it in different ways to at one point looking at it and it made us go, wow. It was so clear and it was so apparent, and it might have been something we knew somewhat intuitively, but when you saw it on that chart, it just kind of blew you away and made you think, okay, now that I know that there's this issue, what can I do to address it? So I'm not going to tell more about that, but you'll have to come to the June meeting to see it happen, see the presentation, see what it can do. And that same kind of data information, now that we have, Talon the Great, who can take this information and help us see this shifts as they're happening or see if something's working or not, we'll be able to have that feedback for these groups. So I am so excited. The recap from the Kennedy School. I don't know if anyone else who went, I've talked enough, but maybe someone else just wants to talk about something that was a great takeaway or something they learned from it. So one of the other participants who was up there can, if they would share something on it really quick.
I think you did a great job, Melissa, and funny. You were funny. So I think you did a really good job, and we can show it next week. I mean, that one thing, for example, is you did mention that we were taught by different Harvard professors up there. And that one session where the guy was telling us how we all live in different worlds, right? That was interesting. And we all live in different worlds in our head and how we can communicate better with each other. So it was sort of broadband. We were interested and focused on the data and homelessness, but then these ancillary instructions from the Harvard professors were also really helpful as well.
Thanks, Eileen. Anyone else who want to add anything? All right, well, we'll give you the full rundown, but it was really cool, and I'm excited for what this brings to our community. And I think hopefully you don't have to be a data geek nerd to get excited about that. It's just that we have the tools to be able to tell our story, and that it matters what you put into HIMSS, because that's where we're pulling the majority of this information from. So making sure that you're identifying the good work that you do matters even more than you thought before. So we'll try to keep making that in there. So definitely June 6th, show up, bring your agencies. If you can bring different people from your agency to attend this in person. We'll do some sessions. It would be a really nice thing to see a really great turnout for that. Any questions on that? I know it's a lot, and I know I shared a lot, but hopefully you can see where you might be able to fit in and how you can help impact and making a positive shift in what we do. And it might just be for some of the newer people who are on here, you're like, I really don't know how I fit in. We want to connect you in and make sure you're connected to the right resources to know, grow, and share. And that's even a helpful shift in knowing what's out there, because that resource might exist, but you just weren't aware of it before. So know that you have a part. Agency announcements, updates. Anybody want to share anything?
I actually do. That's Eileen. I know I took my coming home off of the agenda, and then I was like, oh. So I've spoken to this before, and I'm working for the system in this regard. DMAS, which is Division of Medical Assistance Health Services. It's the division of New Jersey Department of Human Services that runs the Medicaid program. And so it has received a waiver from the federal government to do different sorts of things than it's usually allowed to do with its Medicaid program. And so one of those things that really affects us, or really can affect us, is it's paying for what it's called housing supports. So it's I don't know exactly when it will be implemented, because we've been, as I said, we've been working on this for a year, and the division, the state personnel has been incredibly solicitous of people's ideas from the community. I've never been involved. You know, I was the state attorney for a while, and we were never involved this many people in development of a policy. So it's really encouraging, and they actually seem to be listening to us. So they're going to pay for pre-tenancy services like, housing search, document production. They'll pay for tenancy sustaining services, which is what we do when we connect people to mainstream resources to address their barriers to housing. So they're thinking, so then they're like, okay, we all worked on what you would pay for, and they're like, now how we would pay for it. And it's really important, I think, for the community, us, the social service workers, the housing people who've been doing this forever and supporting themselves through some grants and then like golf outings and silent auctions, to say, okay, fine, we're all talking about the social determinants of health now. So you don't need to recreate people with expertise and experience and how to do that in healthcare agencies. You just need for them to contract with us, because we are the boots on the ground. We've been doing this. We've been talking about social determinants of health since 2012. I'm really grateful that it's catch on, but now let's figure out a way that we can use these Medicaid dollars to support us in the case management that we've always done. So they had one last meeting last month, and then they actually say, okay, you can submit written comments today. And so I worked really hard on that yesterday. So that's my perspective, is like, this is what we do. This is what we do. You want to be able to use our systems case managers and compensate them. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Rather than, force MCOs to develop this whole new department and this whole new division and have a long learning curve, and things won't, our residents and Medicaid beneficiaries will not get the best benefit of the waiver. So any questions on that? Okay, cool.
That's good. Thanks. And that's so important. I know that's one of Eileen's favorite topics of like, hey, we already have experts who know about this. Like, don't go hiring and training a bunch of other people. Just pay the people who've been doing this work already. Exactly. So I appreciate your dedication and advocacy on that part for us in our community. Any other agency announcements and things coming up? All right, no one? Okay, then that's great. There's a couple, like I said before, we have the application process going live on the 7th. The housing support team competitive contracts out at the county website. If anybody needs the link, we can, Michelle, I know, sent it out the first time. We can send it out as a recap with this meeting again, but it was sent out a few weeks ago when that went live. Please make sure you schedule the 15th for the local TA process, and then please encourage people and make sure you can attend the June 6th McKick meeting at the Fire Academy. It's our in-person one. We're going to show you what we presented at Harvard, how we can use data to see how well we're doing and see the challenges we're facing, and then be able to see it by how well we're performing. So we're excited about that. Any other last minute comments, questions, concerns? Okay, we just want to make sure we got Marissa from Community Hope SSVF program added here to our attendees. So perfect, thank you. Enjoy the great weather. Enjoy the day. Let's get a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thanks, Eileen. A second?
I second.
Perfect. That looked like Jennifer Amaya. Perfect. Everyone, take care. Thank you for your attention. And we look forward to seeing you participate in some of our work groups and helping us make shifts happen. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks,
you. Have a great day.
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.